Beautiful. All right. So, welcome everyone. Right now, I am popping it into the chat, today's agenda, but welcome to Global Horizons Fostering Cultural Connections with Lumio for the secondary classroom. This morning, we did a little primary work. This afternoon, we'll do a little secondary. So, amazing. So, thank you for joining us today. First things first, I would love for you to join my classroom. So I'm going to pop in the live link so you can join my lesson. This is a very similar experience for our students. They just need to click the link that I just put in the chat. Once you click on that link, you should have the opportunity to put your name in, and I'll start seeing you populate right in here. We're going to experience Lumio at first from that student side, so it's nice to kind of be in here so you can experience all the things students experience from this perspective. You will see my agenda also posted on this slide as well. You can just click on the blue square. That will also pop you out. I will pin right under Deborah's stuff this agenda as well. So on this agenda, it will walk you a little bit through what we are doing today. I'm the queen of tangents, so it might not stick to the agenda perfectly, but at the bottom, there's a bunch of good resources for you to move forward in implementing Lumio into your instruction, and we'll go over some of those at the end of today's session. But again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll be talking a little bit about connecting Lumio with fostering cultural connections in that secondary classroom. But before we kick it off, I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Michelle Conway Gray. I'm a regional professional development specialist for the East Coast for SMART and Lumio. I currently live in Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey. I did some teaching down in Charleston, South Carolina as a middle school math teacher. So this crew I feel a lot more at home with than my earlier elementary crew. I was an instructional technology coach for 5+ years in the school district of Philadelphia, doing all the things that teachers do, all the tools, implementing all the software products that districts have. So I spent a lot of time doing all of those things. Right below here, you'll see my email. It's also on the agenda. At any time please email me if you have questions, if you're like, hey, I have some ideas that I want to execute in Lumio, I just don't know what feature or tool to use, or do you have a resource? Please use that email. And if you're more of a social person, you can also find me at those social at Techie Millennial on all of these platforms. All right, and all that's on the agenda if you need it. At this time, pop in the chat a little bit about yourself so I know who's in front of me. I love to know like who I have with me in today's session. While you do that, I'll go over what we're doing today. So our purpose is to discover practical strategies in Lumio to enrich that discussion around global perspectives. And we'll do a little bit of collaborating as well. The process typically in our sessions are you're going to experience it from the student perspective, and then we're going to jump in and build a little bit from that lesson from that teacher perspective, okay? And hopefully that gives you an opportunity to walk away with ready-made things that you can turn around. And ideally, the ones that we're going to be creating today are empowering that cultural competency and cultivate critical thinking. But I mean, you can go in so many different areas of content areas to use Lumio, but that's today's focus. Alrighty. And as always, like throughout the presentation, please put comments in the chat, ask questions if you have them as we go through these activities. So pop them in the chat. And it looks like we have a lot of media specialists, librarians, we have e-coaches, middle school social studies teacher. There's my people right there, Erica, my middle school folks right there. We have a middle school librarian, and then we have a math AP Calc teacher, and for ELL kids, amazing. So hopefully I'm going to show some things that will resonate with everyone. So this first activity, I just want to ask, like, what is your cultural background? So for me, it's I'm Irish. I don't know exactly where in Ireland, and I'm also Italian. Those are my cultural backgrounds, but I do know from my ancestry.com that it's somewhere here in North Italy. But I'm going to turn this page. So in Lumio, you can turn any pages into a collaborative space. Whether you're doing it in pre-planning, I like to do it on the fly because I like to explain to my students what we are doing first, and then I give them an opportunity to contribute to the slide. But I'm going to go up to this classroom management tab right up here, and I'm going to change this to a whole class space so we all are contributing on one slide. So right now, that should give you access to drag that pin to what is your cultural background. I should also say that, I'm from Philly somewhere, somewhere around here. We have India. Love that. UK. I was just in London like in January, and I've never been to the UK, and I fell in love, and I would love to go back. We have another Irish. I love this, doing this activity with students because they get so excited to see like where all the pins are, and it's really fun for a good visual for them. Looks like we're super concentrated in the Irish area, UK area. Let's see. Miss Shayla, love that. Looks like the Mid East around here, Leslie. So I can actually pick on any pin. So our Poland, Erica, and I can see who contributed what. So we can infinitely clone any object. So this is again just a fun, maybe just like an entrance um, activity into cultural backgrounds. This is a really fun one because most kids know somewhat of their cultural background by secondary, so they should know at least like what a little bit about themselves by that point. Oh, we have someone. Oh, it just moved. But yeah, this is again a really fun activity to do with your students. I just brought in a map and just used that infinite clone tool. So it looks like, and you can run with this activity. You can deep dive where everyone is from. You could have them partner up and ask questions about find someone on the map that you want to um, partner out with and learn about their culture. So yeah, it's a really fun activity to start out with. I'm gonna keep it moving. 55 minutes goes very fast. All right, so a little bit about Lumio. So YouTube is vetted. So when you bring in a YouTube embedded like this, instead of like popping out to YouTube itself, this is vetted. So there's not going to be any ads that play for students. You can see that you can all hit play and watch the video. I can hit play here on my screen and play the video for everyone. I don't know if anyone put in the chat or have a reaction or come off mute if anyone has ever watched this specific TED Talk about the danger of a single story. This is a really good video in terms of just like the cultural stereotypes. This is a really great video to show. But anyway, back to YouTube. I think YouTube is always super powerful, and especially when you are trying to grab like different perspectives. There's so many resources on YouTube that you can use. But like I said, when you embed it in YouTube or within Lumio, it's not going to play that ad experience for students. It's also not going to keep playing suggestive videos. You'll see every so often they might give some thumbnails at the bottom for suggested videos, but it's not going to keep playing and playing and playing. Okay. So again, the idea is that this was, I don't know if anyone has ever seen this YouTube, but it's a really powerful TED Talk. I partnered it up with a quick graphic organizer that the kids would fill out when they are finished watching the video. So what I would do again, I would explain it to them. And then I can also come up here to the classroom management tab, and I'm going to make this an individual space. I want you to explore the student tools for a second. So you should be able to hit start. Yep, once you start hitting start, your names will populate on my end. And I know I wasn't going to make you watch an 18-minute video, but I just want you to practice with some of those tools that you have. But again, we are just following up on that video with my students and just answering some of those questions. So that's a nice way that you can pair YouTube with Lumio, have an activity immediately after it. In the primary session, we did like YouTube and then we paired it with like a would you rather. Um, something that you could absolutely do in secondary. You could have paired it with like depending on your video about cultural perspectives, you can do different like would you rather try this food from this culture or this food from this culture? Would you rather be a part of this cultural event or this cultural event? So that's another way that you could use that infinitely cloned object to have them vote would you rather. Another fun activity you can do for cultural perspectives. So it looks like Laura said she was done. So I'm going to hop into Laura's. So she was just exploring. So I could leave Laura some feedback. I can say, great job, Laura. Love what you said here. Oh, nope, not here. That's the math teacher me. And I can leave her some notes for her so she knows the teacher left some notes. Maybe I say, dive deeper into that idea. Let's see what Amanda's up to. Let's see, Debbie. One thing about the text tool, so as the teacher, I have the ability to bring up a clean copy. One thing about the text tool that I did get a question about in the previous session, which kind of rings my bell a little bit, is people don't really realize that when you click on the A tool, you have to click into the space, and that's what's going to create your text box. All right. They can add images. Students can add images. They can add text. So students have a lot of abilities. I know I saw I had an EL teacher in here. Um, we have something called immersive reader. So if they need to have a text box read to them, they can click on this little book icon and each text box will appear. So if they click on this text box, it will pop them out to the immersive reader. Certain words they can click on and they can actually get picture dictionary, but they can also come over here to the book icon and they can change the language. So you can meet them where they need to be with that immersive reader, which is really fun tool. And when we're in the teacher side, I'll make sure I show everyone how to enable it. All right, so I'm hopping in here. Let's see. We got Teresa. It is only one perspective. She added an image. Perfect. And as the teacher, I can leave her some feedback. So that's a little bit about how individual handout works. So we're going to keep it moving here. The next thing we're going to do is rate and sequence character traits for global citizens. So this activity, I would just want my students to think, okay, we just talked about global citizenship. We watched a video. We did a little activity. I now want us to think about these character traits that people say that we need for global perspectives and global respect and all the things. I want you to characterize them from most important to least important. This is completely opinion based. There's no right or wrong answers. So I would have my students rank them. So on your part, you should be able to hit start and play around with that as well and hit most important to least important. As the teacher, I can come over to view progress and I can see that 9 are in progress. And this is live, so these bar graphs will change. I'm going to show results here to see what the average is. So right now our average is that respect is our top character trait. I might show this to my students and be like, okay, as a class, we think that curiosity is the least important. Does anyone want to explain why we think that's the least important? Why do we think respect is the most important? Because this was opinion based and I didn't want it to check for right or wrong answers, I'm not going to get any average scores or anything like that. I also can dive into that student progress here and see what everyone did here. So it looks like Amanda finished. So I can say, okay, Amanda thought respect was the most important. She thought collaboration was the least important in terms of character traits. So I can see how each student did individually as well with any game. So we have 12 different games, but only 3 of them give you an activity dashboard. So those activities would be rank order, match them up, and super sort. Okay. So again, just a fun way that you can just keep talking and have the kids critically think about global perspectives is using the game and leveraging that opinion-based game. So perfect. So you were able to see that. And we're going to build all these out together so you can see how this works because I'm sure you have probably already taught this content idea in your classroom and you probably have an awesome idea that maybe I didn't use. And I'll show you how to build these out. So maybe you want to add your own content in these things. And then finally, I'm going to pair this up with this ranking game. I want to pair this graphic organizer. So we have a bunch of graphic organizers that you can edit. I'm going to again, just because we have a pretty small group today, I'm just going to make this a whole class space. And I just want you to just put where you thought it was important, the most important character trait. And I just want you to defend your answer and why you said that. And then if you see anyone saying anything that you're like, yeah, I love snaps to that. I love that response. Drag this little globe next to it, okay? So I'm going to come over here. So you've seen individual, we already did whole class. There is a group workspace option where I could put a few of you on one slide, but again, I'm going to keep it just whole class for today. And again, my students can pop in their answers. Looks like we're having some fun with the inking tool. And again, I can always click on who's contributing what. Again, the A tool, you just need to click on the A and then click in the space, and that will give you the text box. I said empathy is the most important trait because, and we can move them over. That's why, with 20 plus kids, I'll probably make them small group spaces. But just because it was just this small group today, we'll have everyone contribute in one slide. So this is fun because you are giving the students the option to defend themselves and defend their reasoning behind the rank order that they chose. And also I love that they get to agree and pull some ideas from their peers. A little voice and choice, if you will. So just from looking at this, it's so funny that respect got a lot of based off the average, but it looks like empathy is getting a lot of love here as well. I also think curiosity is a super powerful character trait because they have to be curious enough to care to learn about others' cultural backgrounds. Alrighty. So I think you guys did an awesome job. Great job, everyone. And as the teacher, I can always turn off editing access and then pull their attention back to me because I'm sure students can run with this and they'll have so much fun and they'll start keep pulling probably globes down to agree and the inking and doing all those things. So I can also turn off editing access and then we can start talking about it because if I don't turn off that edit access, students will most likely just keep going while I'm talking and we're discussing. So definitely turn off that editing access when you're ready to discuss with the students. All right. Excuse me. So I just because it's 55 minutes, I just wanted to highlight different ways that we can use different tools. There's so many tools in Lumio. I just highlighted a few for this 55 minutes. But right now, I just wanted you to pop in the chat real quick, like what are some ways that you have taught this subject area in your class? Maybe if you've used Lumio before, how have you used Lumio before? Just pop some ideas in the chat and then we're going to switch gears to building. Maybe you just need to say, hey, I never thought about using a whole class whiteboard for them to put their opinions on. All right, let's do that. Let's when I do a when we do our walkthrough, our build part, Shayla, when I'm doing rank order, let's make a super sort together. Used it for brainstorming and sorting. I used Lumio during COVID a lot. Yeah, it was super popular, but at the time it wasn't usually really as user friendly as Nearpod for both teachers and students. Okay, great feedback. I've not used Lumio with my class, but I like the interactive features. Awesome, awesome. Alrighty, so great responses. So I'm going to start letting us build. So we're going to get out of that teacher perspective now. And we are going to leave class. So you can go to your 3 lines up at the top. And then you should be able to open up a new tab. From here, I should start seeing my numbers just dwindle. As the teacher, I'm also able to remove folks. So I can hit select and remove, but that will just kick them out to another page. Again, they just need to click on the door and say leave class. Next thing you can do, there's so many different ways that you can get into Lumio. So a couple different ways. So I'm going to get out of here real fast. You can go to Google Drive. Just a couple different ways that you can get into Lumio. You can go to Google Drive and you can go to new, more Lumio. You're also able to do it in the app switcher, we call it, or I call it the waffle. You're able to find Lumio sometimes in this waffle switch at the very bottom, or app switch. Or you can go to the classic one, which is just going to golumio.com. And it's going to bring you to the home page and it will say sign in at the top right corner. And you just say teacher sign in. I'm already signed in, so it's just going to keep bringing me back to my home page. But once you are on your home page, and I know you are successful, you should be able to see your class ID up here at the top. Just pop that in the chat, just so I know we have found our home page. It's in some capacity.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last request?
Yeah, once you get into your homepage, I know you're successful if you can find your class ID and if you could just pop that in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. for my e-coaches. I know I have a couple e-coaches in here. This is like a strategy I use when I have to do virtual trainings with Lumio, just so I know that they got in there successfully. I just have them pop their ID in the chat. Beautiful. And let me know in the chat if you're having any problems. If you've never been in Lumio before, you're probably going to get prompted some stuff like, are you an adult or a minor? You'll obviously want to sign in with Google. I do believe we are a Google district here. I can't tell you how happy I am to be back in Google Meet. With this new role, not new role, but since I been on the Lumio Smart team, there are big Teams people and big Zoom people. Okay, no worries, Jayla. If you are in that, if you keep getting that student prompt, there's sometimes little things like either in the corner or on the bottom being like, "Are you a teacher?" But I love Google Meet is where I was going with that. And I miss it. I'm so happy to be back in here. Understandable. And they couldn't have made that text smaller, honestly. All right. So a couple things, just housekeeping things we'll go over, especially for my newer users. This is your library. This is all of your Lumio files that you will or have created. And then just a couple things. So your name is what your students will see. I work with all of you, like teachers. I do not mind that you know my first and last name, but if I was in the classroom, I probably wouldn't want my kids to be like, yo, what's up, Michelle, anytime they want. So I'm going to have you go over where it says edit class right next to your class ID. Okay. You're going to go to edit class. The first one says rename it. Let's rename ourselves. So you can put Mr. or Miss or Mrs. I'm going to keep mine Michelle Gray. No worries, Victoria. Just you let me know if you need me to go backwards to show anything. So again, rename yourself if you don't want that name to appear for your students. Next thing from that same menu, right under rename class, you have manage class access. I'm going to have us all click on there as well. There's a middle tab that says guest access. We are going to swipe this off. Most of you work with students. If you are more of like me who work with adults and teachers, we'll want to keep that guest access on. But for our students, we don't want them to come in as guests. We want them to come in with, excuse me, with their credentials. That way that it saves their work efficiently. They can just like name themselves anything like I love dogs 24 and you're like, I'm not sure who's the one contributing with that name. So we do like to give that suggestion of turning off guest access. The big one there is really just saving their work more efficiently for them to go back and do their work if they don't finish it during class time. And then you also have edit class. One more thing under here, you have a manage immersive reader. So that was that little book icon that allowed the students to have the text read to them or change it to their native language. That is defaulted as off. So make sure you swipe that on if you do want that on during your live sessions with your students. If by any chance you know it's turned off if you don't have that book icon in the toolbar for you and your students when you're doing a live lesson with them. So just make sure that's swiped on. And every once in a while, that will switch. So definitely want to make sure you just know the red flag is that you don't see the book icon when you are doing your live lesson. Okay. And this session's being recorded. So if you need to go back and uh, see some things that you might have missed due to technical difficulties or anything like that, um, we have a recording happening right now. All right, so you also have right here, you have the Lumio library. So that is the last tab to the right here, up at the very top, the Lumio library. If we all click on the Lumio library, this is where you can find ready-made resources right off the bat. So you don't need to always recreate the wheel. We have a featured section that's constantly changing every month. So there's some really good stuff in there. Um, every month. You also have just like different categories that you can go through and pull from. We have partnerships with people, so you'll see like Epic and ReadWorks, Footsteps of History for my social studies folks. These are really good to be like partnered with content. And yeah, so you have different templates that you can choose from, but different resources for you in this Illumio library. If I were to go through here and I'm looking for stuff, maybe I'm teaching a little bit about International Women's Day and I'm having them do research on international, global women that made a difference in history or to our world. And I'm like, you know what? This is a really great template. I want to use this template. I might change some of the wording, maybe the directions, or, maybe I want to add like a game or a video for them to watch. I just need to hit save to my library. And then I don't necessarily have to wait for it to import. I can keep looking, but just for the sake of time, that's good. I'm going to just keep that one going and it would be ready for me to jump in and edit if I wanted to. But I'm just going to say dismiss. So when you have a moment, I highly recommend hopping back into this Lumio library, especially I saw a few folks say they haven't been in here in a while. This is a really good opportunity to kind of, now you've seen it, it's back in that front of your mind. I'm the queen of like out of sight, out of mind. You now know that you have some good resources back here. So we're actually going to hop back over to my library for now. I'm actually going to open up another Lumio tab just so I can see some things that I need to see so I know where I'm going with this. Beautiful. All right, so from here, we're going to, right under your name, you're going to see the word new, okay? I'm going to have us all hit new. And you have so many ways that you can start. I can start with a YouTube, a game, a blank page. That's where we're going to start. But I can also import. So if I have like great resources that are Google Slides, maybe that thing I just saved from Lumio Library, I want to bring it in and edit it. I can bring in things from my computer, so my PowerPoint users, or maybe you have a really great PDF you can import from these places. You also can bring in editable files. So I can bring in an editable PDF. I can bring in an editable PowerPoint. Uh, Google Drive got released a little bit late 2023, so there are still like kinks to be worked out, but when you bring in Google things, it's also editable. I will say anytime I bring in editable files to any platform, uh, most of the time they do change like the format a little bit or the font that I originally had. So just keep that in mind when you bring in editable things. Okay. But for today's session, I'm going to go into this template option. And I am going to, and there's so many different templates that you can choose from. And when I was looking, I actually saw that they had an Earth Day one, and I was like, I'm totally using that for these sessions. So I'm going to click on this Earth Day template. And I am just going to pull in this Earth Day title slide. And you know what? I like the 6 tile one, and I think I'm going to use that when we recreate those character traits. So I'm only going to pull in 2 of all these slides. I don't need all of them. I just need 2 of them. And I am just going to pull that in. And you know what? I'm going to pull in this 2-column organizer as well. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So I'm just going to call this Global Connections with Mrs. Gray. Now, if you want to ever change the font, you just need to click on it and just kind of triple click on it, and it will make the text box editable. I'm currently in a hyperfixation with a certain font. I don't know if anyone else gets in a hyperfixation with certain fonts. I get in fixations with certain fonts. Poppins is my current fixation. I hate these little lines, so I'm getting rid of them. I hate this little square or this little bush in the corner. I don't want that. I'm getting rid of that. And I'm just going to make this a little smaller. And I'm going to lock this in place. Shayla is also a font hyperfixator, just like me. It looks like. I think that's what she's saying yes to. So that's my title slide. I am going to keep that. Looks good to me. The next thing I had was that YouTube video. So I'm going to go back to that plus sign. Anytime I want to keep adding to an activity or a lesson, I just need to go to this plus sign. It's going to always be that same menu. So you're going to be very familiar with this menu if you start creating in Lumio more often. You have options that you can choose from. And if you're wondering, well, I don't know how that option works or that feature works, there's little graduation caps everywhere you navigate in Lumio that gives you a short blurb of how that feature works. Okay. So definitely that graduation cap goes unnoticed, but that's going to be super helpful. But I'm going to pull in this YouTube video. And this was the dangers of a single story TED Talk. If I want to preview a video, I just need to click on the little YouTube icon. When you search for YouTube, if you're not seeing it show up, these are vetted and filtered through a like some sort of filtering system. So something with that video was deemed inappropriate, so that's why I didn't make it through the filter. If you're like, hey, but I know that's an appropriate video, you might just have to hop out to YouTube and watch it just on a YouTube tab. But most videos make it through that are appropriate. And I just need to hit add, and now the video's in. And again, let me know if you're having any issues with anything that we're doing. All right, so the next one is actually, I'm going to switch it up and do the one that I actually did in primary because I think secondary kids would have so much fun with this one too. I'm going to get rid of all the butterflies. I'm not gonna lie, I don't want them there. So I'm gonna unlock them and delete them. And I'm going to get rid of this globe too. This one is going to be a would you rather. And again, I'm going to my hyperfixation. If it does this, I just need to use my handlebar to drag it out. But most of us are very familiar with how text boxes work. Soon enough, there will be alignment tools in Lumio, which are going to be awesome and helpful when you're editing. Yeah, so I'm going to say, would you rather? And then I'm also going to say here, it's going to be the Australian meat pie. This is a fun way to like expose students to different cultures. And I work smarter, not harder. So sometimes if I resize something that I want twice, I'll delete this one, delete this, and I will duplicate this one over here. And this one's going to be the Austrian apple strudel. And I just need to move it over a little, pull it out. I have to make it a little smaller so it can fit in here. Beautiful. Why I like walking people through the student experience at first, because this toolbar is extremely similar to the ones that you were exposed to when you were in the student side. So you know that you can add images here, you can add shapes and lines, you can add an image, you can add a link. Maybe I link out to what these cultures are and have the students do it individually, but I'm going to do this as a whole. So I'm just going to look for an image called the Australian. Totally. I love that feedback. Love that feedback, Meredith. I'm gonna come back to you actually when we do towards the end, because I'm gonna have you remind me of that comment, and I'm gonna put that on this sheet that we have ongoing about some things that we see that we would like to be updated. Bring in that. And then I'm also going to bring in that. Now, if you hold down shift, I'll let that finish its thing here. If you hold down shift and then select multiple pictures at the same time, hold on, sorry. My computer just froze on me. I'm going to hold down shift and I'm just going to select all of these objects at the same time and then let go. And then I just need to click on one of these down arrows and I'm going to lock them all at the same time. Okay. If if I have like several of these and I want my kids to do this individually, I could leave them instructional audio. So you can have up to 5 minutes per slide of your voice. But soon enough, there's going to be the opposite way. So students are going to be able to give you audio feedback, and also teachers are going to be able to add audio to an object. Okay, so maybe we're doing something else, and I want to add my voice to this picture. I'm going to be able to do that. Or this text box, I'll be able to do that. The last thing I need to do is just make sure that I have this globe that I want them to drag. And one thing that I cannot stand is when I bring in an object and it has that white background. Yeah, don't like that. I'm going to hop out of Lumio real fast. And I'm just going to go to Google Images and I'm going to look up globe. Go to image. One little trick, if you don't already know it, you have this tools option and you have a color option here. You can say transparent and it gets rid of all of the ones with white backgrounds. Saves me a lot of trouble. Copy image, and I'm going to bring it back here into Lumio. And I'm going to hit Control V, and I can pop it in here. And then from here, once that completely loads in, I'm just going to select it. Instead of locking it, I'm actually going to make this an infinitely cloned object so they can pull out as many votes as they can in this whole class whiteboard. So you saw when I was doing this on the fly, the idea of switching it after I was done explaining it to them. You can prep that ahead of time. So I might prep this little magic wand here. I might prep it as a whole class space ahead of time. But I like to explain the activity to my kids and then switch it live. But this is like a personal choice, honestly. And then I can title the slide, Would You Rather? Vote. And just due to time, we're just going to do that rank order. Or if we want, we can do a super sort. But we're going to do a quick little rank order. Let me double check that yeah, did most of them. Go back into that plus sign. And I have my game-based activities right here. Rank order is technically a game. And there it is. But Shayla, I think it was, she mentioned Super Sort, which is a really fun one. It's like a 2-category one that they can drop uh, the responses into 2 categories. We've been asking if the product creators could make more than 2 categories, so stay tuned if that will ever happen. And then we also are adding some more games. And like I said, you get data on 3 of the games. They're extending that to more games. Shayla, I completely agree. If there was like one more category, it would make me like chef's kiss, like so happy. But it's fine. It's fine. I can work with 2 for now. And then I'm just going to go into a rank order here. For those that have used Lumio before, hopefully you agree with me. I really feel like the games are an easy place to start, especially if you're new. They're so easy to make. Um, and the kids really love them. They really engage with them, especially if you're trying to have them engage in like not so fun of a topic. Like sometimes math, I was a math teacher, so they don't always have fun in my math class. They or maybe like global perspectives, like right off the rip doesn't sound as interesting to them, but something like a game could get them more engaged. So this one was about character traits. So we have like that most important character trait to the least important. Monster quiz, oh my god, they go nuts for. And I don't care, like you can say middle schoolers. I have worked with seniors that were going nuts for monster quiz because at the end of the day they are competitive. So the ranking labels was most important to least important, and I think it was like curiosity, and we had respect, empathy. Laura, I'm so happy you say that because honestly, with these trainings, those 2 do not get like we obviously as trainers, we go with the ones that have like the data so we can show that during training, but I do not give enough love to word search and team quiz. And I would like to start giving them more love. The word search for sure, I need to give more love to. Yes, I love that any of the games, it switches it up for the kid in a sense, like it's not like the answers aren't always in the same spot. Um, when you don't want something to be checked and you want it to be more opinion based, you want to say don't check. Okay. That's always a key. Not all of them are going to have this option, but don't check. Laura, now that you brought it up, one more thing that I love that doesn't get a lot of love is response, which is a formative assessment. And a lot of people use it for the formative assessment, but there's a secret little tool in response that we did in the earlier session that allows you to create word clouds. Um, just a little hidden one in response that I do love that doesn't get a lot of love. All right, so we have finished my template here. I spelled curiosity wrong. Good, good, good. Great start. And then I can go over to next. I can choose from these themes. Some are more interactive than others, but I also can make a custom one and hit next. And I think this is where I'm going to make these a little bit more bolder so it can show up. It depends, I guess, on my background that I'm going to choose. Some sort of map or globe. Map of globe. Let's see how this works out. Do. Um, let's do that one. All right, looks good. I can roll with this one. All right, and I'm gonna hit finish. And from here, my file could be done. I don't have time to do this 6 tile one. I was just gonna repeat what we did in that student side, but this looks good to me. I'll call this the character traits. Final step is just to make sure you title it. So I'm going to call this Fostering Global Connections. And just hit finish editing. When I'm ready to start teaching this, I just hit start on the file. I can go back and edit it. You also have 3 dots in all of your files. So the 3 dots in the bottom right corner. This is how I can duplicate it. So if I teach multiple subject areas, which most of us in secondary do, and I'm teaching this same subject multiple times, I'm going to want to make duplicates because I don't want all 100 kids that I have in one file because I've already ran the activities multiple times and I want them to either A, go back and finish it for homework, or maybe the next day. All of that will be missing if I use the same file all over and over and over again. But I also like to always have a master copy that I just make duplicates off of so I can repurpose it next year. You also have this share link. So this share link, I can get a teacher link that if Shayla and I were colleagues, I'm like, hey, you want a copy? Here's your copy. And then this student link at the bottom is just that asynchronous link. So if you want your students to sign in and finish their work, or you want them to work separately from you live, maybe it's a station they're working on Lumio on their devices, this student share link is going to be super important. And then I'm just going to hop back into this file. Time flies when you're talking about Lumio, apparently, because we are already almost at that 2:30 mark. Just quickly, just a quick shout out in the chat. What are some things that were aha moments for you? Maybe, you haven't been in Lumio in a bit and you're like, oh, I completely forgot about that and I'm totally going to use it. What are some things you saw? Yeah, yeah, yep. Love that, Shayla. And then I forgot to mention, um, and I'll go back to it later. Always forget about the Lumio library. If you're on your homepage, there's a little question mark at the top right corner. I think it was someone had, maybe it was Meredith. One of you guys had such good feedback. Meredith. There's a question mark in the top right corner. There is an option to request or give feedback or request a feature. That's going to be your spot. Anytime you see something, you're like, hey, I would love for this to do this, go to that request a feature option. The product people use that list to keep adding things to it. Ambassador platform. This is on the bottom of the agenda. Super valuable community to keep learning, keep being a part of all things Lumio. All the resources at the bottom are linked. We have a YouTube channel that shows a lot of the things that we did today. We have an academy if you're more of like a self-paced learner. Those are all free, but that community is going to be huge. If you are more of like a Facebook group type person, we have a Facebook group. And just, yeah, thank you all for joining. If you ever do anything cool in Lumio, post on social. Let us know what you're doing out there. I'm sure you guys are thinking of way more creative stuff that maybe I am. And I love to find out like what my teachers are doing, especially my East Coast teachers, what we are doing and killing and doing awesome things in Lumio. But yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. This is the email. And thank you all for joining me and staying a little 1 minute late.